Hey lifers, Dustin here, and I would like to welcome you to a very late Saturday edition of College Football News. As always, if there's anything I missed this week that you think would be interesting to talk about, you can always shoot me a tweet right there and let me know, or link to a story. And you can do that during the week, kind of building up. I kind of want this to be like a weekly, like Philip DeFranco sports college football thing. I just talk about the biggest stories of the day, and it would be nice to know sometimes what you guys want me to talk about. So make sure to shoot me a tweet during the week if you hear something interesting, and let me know about it up top. I'll make sure to try to give you as much credit as I can if it's individuals. But yeah, let's get right into the news. Nick Saban made a little bit of a kerfuffle this week as he went on ESPN and gave some ideas of what he thinks college football needs to change in the future to be a better product. And that includes that Power 5 teams should only play other Power 5 teams, and that the top 12 teams in the... There's a fire truck. That the top 12 teams in the final college football playoff committee's poll should go into the New Year's Six Bowls, and I'll tell you why that is dumb. Come on. Now, there's a part of me that is kind of on board with the idea of FBS teams not scheduling FCS teams. I know that is a point of contention for a lot of reasons. It helps out the little guy. In some cases, it funds their entire athletic budget for the entire year. I understand all of that, but at the same time, the level of competition is watered down for the most part, unless, of course, an FCS team beats an FBS team, which, happens. I'm still not on board totally for that to happen. I do think we need to decrease it. I don't think you should play one every year, but we'll see how that goes. But the idea of not playing a team from the Mountain West or from the American Conference, that's ridiculous. That essentially creates an entire new division of Division I. You would have FBS, you would have Group of Five, and then you would have 1AA. You would have FCS. That's ridiculous. It would lock teams like Central Michigan and Akron and UNLV out of bowl games, the chance of playoff berths. It would launch them out of paydays to come to Alabama or Texas or Oregon and get like a $1.2 million paycheck. Do you know how much a team like Eastern Michigan could do with $1.2 million? I mean, that's a huge deal to them. Probably not as big of a percentage of a deal as it is to like an FCS school, but still, it's more money than that school probably makes as far as just going right to their athletic department than any home game they make. Maybe in some cases all of the home games they make. And again, you are locking teams like Houston out of a college football playoff. You're locking teams like Boise State out of a playoff. Just a few years ago, it would have been teams like TCU would have been out of the playoff. Why in the world would they not get into the college football playoff at this point? You're really hindering some of these teams. Now, that's what Nick Saban wants. Nick Saban is already on top of the mountain as far as college football coaches go, so it's easy for him to say that it should be Alabama and Texas and USC and nobody else. I'm pretty sure that he's not thrilled playing teams like Vanderbilt and Miss State, but it is what it is. He knows that they're in the league. But if he can eliminate teams like Akron from the schedule, he would probably rather do that, because if Alabama can go 15-0 against all Power 5 teams, then he's the greatest person to ever live. Obviously, there's a bias here. I think it's bad for college football as a whole. It's bad for the product. He also, I meant to mention this a few minutes ago, he wants to eliminate the 6-win requirement for bowl games. Now, that is also a bad idea, because in my opinion, it would, if you have a 5-7 Notre Dame team and you have a 9-3 Central Michigan team, who would a bowl rather take? They would rather take Notre Dame. So you're going to still have more Power 5 teams put into those bowl games and squeeze out the group of 5 teams. It's not fair. If you want to tell me you want less bowl games, I'm all for that. And I know that less bowl games creates less opportunities for group of 5 teams, but blatantly picking favorites over better group of 5 teams, that's not okay, and I'm not on board with that. Now, the proposal to put the top 12 teams in the New Year's Six, I'm on board with, as long as the highest non-Power 5, so the highest group of 5 team who was a conference champion is included. So if you want to take the top 11 plus last year, Western Michigan, like you did, that's perfectly fine with me. I really don't have a problem with that at all. Put the top 4 in the other bowl game, in the playoff games, and then let the other 4 bowls rotate between the other 8 teams. I'm perfectly fine with that. That fire truck really threw me off of the entire speech that I had planned, but what are you going to do? Let me know down below what you think about Nick Saban's proposals. I think most of them are ridiculous, and we've seen in the past that Nick Saban doesn't always have the best ideas when it comes to college football, i.e. no hurry-up offense or spread offense. He always tries to kind of complain at the system for things that benefit his team, which a lot of people hate on him for, but it's what every other coach does. Maybe not to the extent or the visibility that Nick Saban does, but it's what every coach should probably do. So I don't blame him for that, but I do think these proposals are kind of not good for the sport. The next thing I want to talk about is a proposal I read in the Orlando Sentinel about the idea, kind of a proposal to go from 13 weeks of the regular season to 14 weeks of the regular season and not increase the game number from 12 to 13, but give teams 2 bye weeks. Now, on the surface, I think this is a really good idea. I think this is more rest during the season. We get college football a week earlier, which we're all thrilled about. So I'm actually on board with this, but they talked to a couple of coaches, mainly Navy's coach, who said that they are not on board with this because college football kids, like the players of the teams, it's already a year-round thing for them, and they don't get any breaks. They don't get any time off with recruiting and spring ball and school and weight training and off-season workouts. They just don't get any time off, and adding this extra week is going to hurt that somehow. But my feeling about it is, if they're already playing a year-round sport, is adding an extra week of rest doing damage? That doesn't seem to really make sense to me. Because you're not adding a week in March, you're adding a week in August, or maybe December. I don't know how exactly they're planning. I assume it would be a week earlier in August instead of the week 0 games that we have now. That would just be week 1, and we would just go 15 weeks, including the conference championship game. I don't see how that's a big deal, but I figured I would throw it out here because I think it's an interesting talking point and see what you guys feel about it. Let me know down in the comments. The South Alabama Jaguars had been building a brand new practice facility since January. I put that in past tense because, of course, their practice facility got blown over during a thunderstorm this past week. Luckily, there were no injuries and no workers were present in the area during the time of the collapse. They had started building it in January, and apparently it was supposed to be up sometime in October, November, sometime by the end of the season, particularly when times start to get a little bit cooler. I don't think it ever gets really cold in Mobile, but cooler. But nope, it blew over during a thunderstorm. Originally, I heard that it was due to a sinkhole, which really spiked my interest, but no, apparently it was just a thunderstorm. Coastal Carolina head coach Joe Maglia will miss the entire 2017 season. It will be the Chant's first season as an official FBS member and competing in the Sun Belt Conference. He will miss it due to a bronchial asthmatic reaction to allergies. He says he's been suffering from it from a couple of years, and he needs some time off and probably away from grass. That doesn't say that in the article, but I'm assuming some time away from grass and heat and competing and weather changes in order to actually heal it. He says he'll be back at 100%. He says he's coming back to coaching. He just needs to take this 1 year off. It's been a problem that's kind of been following him for 3 or 4 years, and he just needs some time off to fix it. As someone who is asthmatic myself, it is no joke. It is horrible. Having asthma is terrible, and it's scary when things start going wrong. So I definitely hope he is better. He heals himself and comes back at 100%. I think it sucks as someone in the state of South Carolina. I was really hoping, kind of puts doubt as to how good the shots are going to be this year. I really want them to do well, but hopefully he can come back and they can do some competing in the Sun Belt for the next few years to come. Now look, I've given teams a lot of crap over the last few weeks for offering scholarships to middle school and elementary school kids, but this week, Alabama, Ole Miss, and Miss State offered a 14-year-old from Columbia, Mississippi a scholarship, but Jesus Christ, look at this kid. Oh my God, he's such a big person. Look at him. He's 14. He's 6'4", 286 pounds. Staying in the SEC, last week, redshirt senior safety for Florida, Marcel Harris, tore his Achilles, and he will miss the entirety of the 2017 season. He led the Gators in tackles with 73 in 2016, and he also had a heck of a complete year. He had 2 interceptions, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, a sack, and a defensive touchdown last year. This was his redshirt senior season, so it's unknown whether he'll get a medical hardship from the NCAA to compete for a 6th season of eligibility or if his time in college football is over, but either way, it's tough. Pitt has dismissed defensive end Rory Blair for conduct detrimental to the program. That is a harsh way to go out. They also suspended safety Jordan Whitehead, offensive lineman Alex Buxer, and linebacker Quentin Wergenis. Might be Wergenis, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Colorado also suspended linebacker Anthony Julmisi. In this week's news that is not really news, Oregon's new head coach Willie Taggart announced that the Ducks will not be sporting a brand new uniform every single week, instead only having a couple of alternates. He thinks this will kind of reset the mindset of the program from things that don't matter to things that do matter, like winning. Okay, that's great. They changed uniforms a lot when they went to the first college football playoff championship. But whatever. You're the head coach. It's your program. Also out of Eugene this week is that dismissed wide receiver Darren Carrington has signed with Pac-12 rival Utah, so that should be pretty interesting. Also, the last thing I want to talk about in this now ballooning episode of College Football News is not really a story at all. It's more of a recommendation for an article. SB Nation did an interesting write-up on when somebody or a team is being investigated by the NCAA, how it doesn't just affect them, it doesn't just affect teammates, it doesn't just affect the university, but can also be expanded into intense scrutiny of friends and family of team members. So I think it's a really interesting read. It's linked down below. So that's it for college football news that I found interesting this week. Obviously, as always, down below in the comments section, let me know what you thought was most interesting this week, anything that I may have missed. And one more plug, during the week, if you find anything interesting, just shoot me a little tweet. Right there is my Twitter, and that way I can kind of best serve you guys by giving out information that viewers like you may be more interested in, other than just things that I like. So that's my little PSA for the day. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. You can also click the circle right there in order to subscribe or watch any of the other videos over there to the right that YouTube has suggested for you. Thank you so much, and as always, until next time. That Power 5 teams should only play other Power 5 teams, and that the top 12 teams in the... There's a fire truck. That the top 12 teams in the final college football playoff committee's poll should go into the New Year's Six Bowls, and I'll tell you why that is dumb. Come on. Now, there's a part of me that is kind of on board with the idea of FBS teams not scheduling FCS teams. I know that is a point of contention for a lot of reasons. It helps out the little guy. In some cases, it funds their want this to be like a weekly, like Philip DeFranco sports college football thing. where I just talk about the biggest stories of the day, and it would be nice to know sometimes what you guys want me to talk about. So make sure to shoot me a Make sure to shoot me a tweet during the week if you hear something interesting, and let me know about it up top. I'll make sure to try to give you as much credit as I can. Hey lifers, Dustin here, and I would like to welcome you to a very late Saturday edition of College Football News. As always, if there's anything I missed this week that you think would be interesting to talk about, you can always shoot me a tweet right there and let me know, or link to a story. And you can do that during the week, kind of building up. If it's individuals. But yeah, let's get right into the news. Nick Saban made a little bit of a kerfuffle this week as he went on ESPN and gave some ideas of what he thinks college football needs to change in the future to be a better product. And that includes